Hello.
Hi, everyone.
Hello, everybody. We are Auburn Court from Dandelion Branding, and welcome to EnvironMental Podcast.
Yeah, welcome. This is our podcast where we choose a topic about sustainability and then we talk about it for several weeks from the lens of social and environmental justice.
Yes, we do. And we have been talking about fresh water issues for the past
While, because we took a break.
for the past, I don't know, X number of weeks. Yeah, we dived into the Flint water crisis. We talked about Dakota Access Pipeline and Line 3 and the water protectors in the Midwest in the US. We read a book all about water systems.
There was at least one more. I think we just covered what's up with water? Why is there this idea that there isn't enough water? Where does that come from? And who's to blame and how. And this one we're going to talk about how to help, what you can do as an individual or as a small business to help make a difference with the water crisis.
Yeah. It's been a really interesting one to learn about because I think going into it, I definitely was under the assumption that there really was a freshwater scarcity issue. There is not enough fresh water.
Yeah.
And I think that though that is true in some places, the access to fresh water is not available for all humans of the planet right now or ever. I was really kind of surprised to hear though that there is an ample amount of water, but the issue is really just storing and keeping and making sure that water is actually in the proper places and doesn't end up just turning into salt water in the oceans.
Yeah, the water. Exactly. We don't have a water issue because I always think about it as energy. You can't create or destroy energy. Water feels in this context feels kind of the same way because there's always the same amount of water going through the water cycle at all times. It's just in different parts of the cycle, and it could be in rain or in fog or underground. And I think what shocked me the most was learning that what's actually changing is how water is able to travel to other places. Learning that we talked about it last time, that clear cutting forests along the coast keeps storms and the water cycle over the ocean rather than allowing them to travel inland. And that's why you get inland droughts and dust bowls like we saw, I think it was last year in the southern United States. There was massive dust storms. And this was one of the causes of it. And to me, that was the most shocking thing.
Yeah, to see how intricately tied deforestation is with water cycles and making sure that there's enough humidity in the atmosphere that allows for clouds to travel. That's crazy.
Right.
It makes sense, but it's just not something that
yeah, it's not a one-to-one issue.
Yeah.
And I think, we were talking about before the podcast, when you look up how to help the water crisis, you get turn off the water when you're brushing your teeth, take shorter showers. But that's making it feel I use less water, there's more water available. That's not how it works. It's not a one-to-one issue like that. And I think we find that a lot in general, that we were finding that a lot as we investigate more and more aspects of sustainability with this podcast.
Yeah. Yeah, everything is more intricate than initially thought of, but also just yeah, everything is so intricately tied together. It's such an interesting thing to kind of learn about incrementally. Because by default, yeah, we're going to kind of go back to other topics that we've already covered. And like, you know, even in the future, like when we talk about fast fashion, we are most certainly going to talk about issues about water that come
Right.
back up. So like,
Totally. Because
yeah.
yeah, now we know a lot about, like, we know a lot about deforestation because we spent weeks learning about it and talking about it, and like talking to other people about it and bringing it up in conversation, and just yeah. So when you hear about deforestation, it's like that's a topic I can speak on already. How does it relate to water? And then you're like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
these two things are connected, and now there's like a bigger piece of that puzzle together, which kind of answered some questions that we had about deforestation. So now I feel like I understand that topic a little more, and more about water
Mm-hmm.
and how water travels and works, and it's pretty
Yeah.
cool. It's pretty cool.
It is. It absolutely is. Yeah. Like, I mean, it is very, very interesting. And when looking up, like, yeah, ways to help, like you said, yeah, a lot of the solutions are very like surface level.
Yeah, that's not helpful. But
Yeah.
none of the solutions are like plant trees in your neighborhood or grow native plants that are tolerant to the environment that you have now.
Yeah, I think that we found one resource that had like a really thorough list. It's from a website called circleofblue.org. We'll definitely put that link in the description because that is a really cool and extensive list of 19 solutions.
Yeah, and
That
none
I,
of them are reduce water usage.
yeah,
Or
they're kind of right. They kind of go past that like individual use and actually kind of tackle like larger issues in general.
yeah, exactly. Like educate to change consumption and lifestyles is like number one, but then there's like 18 more that aren't
Yeah.
that. And
Because
I really
that, yeah,
go ahead.
because that is important. Like, I mean, right. Like, I don't know, just
Like don't waste water.
right. People understand that you shouldn't waste water, but like there's never really been a negative consequence. There's never really been anything that like
Mhm.
translates to their lifestyle being impacted whatsoever. Like they don't see a consequence, I think. And I use the term they, we, I don't know, I'm included there. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So I do think that yeah, education is a really key piece here because just telling someone to do something when they don't see a positive benefit or the negative consequences means that they're probably not going to adapt that into their lifestyle. Just the general public, like people that
Yeah,
are into sustainability, like absolutely, and people who are
sure.
thoughtful about things holistically, totally. But for the general public, like in order to kind of understand how these things like and why they matter and why their
Right.
individual uses does make a difference. I do think that, yeah, education, that of course makes sense as the first one, but I'm glad that they started with just education and not just like be water wise.
Be water wise.
Okay.
I also like the idea of recycling wastewater pulled out as a like making big systems that offer a new mindset for wastewater usage and treatment.
Yeah.
Like I one of the water wise things I learned in California was like using my warm up shower water, collecting it in a tub and using it to flush a toilet.
Mm.
Like, and yeah, for me that was fine, but I think I mean, I think about it like that from an individual level, but then we think about it like wastewater, gray water. We flush fresh water down the toilet. We should find a way to have a mindset around the treatment of that fresh water.
Mhm.
You
Yeah,
know,
and that was a question. So we had asked, gosh, I don't know, probably several weeks ago before we really dove into this topic. We asked on our Living Brand Directory Instagram. Shout out at Living Brand Directory. You should follow us.
yeah, we
Um,
if you like sustainability, you're gonna really like the Living Brand Directory.
yeah. And somebody asked, yeah, why do we still use fresh water in toilets? And then we thought that that was a really really good question. So that is an interesting one. And the answer is just kind of like, well, that's the way that it was set up here. So it is the
Because we
easiest.
do.
It's because we do. Yeah, it's the easiest thing to do. It's connected to all of the systems. And like it could be argued that treating water, wastewater, that is a mixture of solid wastes and or whatever other human waste mixed with fresh water is easier to treat than if the water had been, I don't know, any
Salt
other type of
water.
water. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um, and that,
maybe.
yeah, salt water is a bit too corrosive and it requires more upkeep and more kind of more
Yeah.
frequent like work. Which also makes
Yes.
sense. But yeah.
I mean, it makes sense. And also, it makes sense if you think about Flint, Michigan, because that issue was a corrosion issue. So if everybody switched over to saltwater, most of the, like, I want to say, like, standardized people that have running water would probably have a lead issue and or too much iron, like too much of a mineral
Yeah.
from their pipes in their water. So
Yeah.
that's something
Yeah.
that
I mean, it would need an entirely different infrastructure in
totally.
general just to get the salt water to your home.
Right.
Um, so yeah, logistically, that's just kind of not something that I think that anybody, any state or city or anything really kind of wants to like implement. But
Right.
um, yeah, the use of rainwater I think has been tested in some places where they were able to catch that and use that water specifically in like different um
On communes.
pipes and things. Yeah, well, yeah, on communes, of course, if you catch it yourself and like, yeah, you use a bucket, like what you were saying, then yeah, it's a lot easier. But making these changes, like in terms of infrastructure, I think is really, I think
Mhm.
that's where we don't get a whole lot of movement, just because that's a big
That's
undertaking.
like a monetary development
Mhm.
political issue up and down with red tape and caution lines. Like that's,
Yeah.
yeah. So we're stuck with fresh water and as
Yeah.
flushing our toilets.
But there are more efficient toilets these days that use way less water. So that's cool. There were also, I didn't keep this resource because it didn't seem like it was like really far in development, but there were also something about the way in which toilets can be created so that they're like totally like kind of non-stick in a way. So you'd
Okay.
actually have to use less water in the bowl and it's just kind of like a lubricant. Uh, I guess I don't know all the proper terminology. I was like, okay, that sounds interesting because you wouldn't have to use as much water because everything just slips right off of the sides or anything and goes into the like what water is there. Um, but I was like, okay, but that also seems like we'd then be polluting the water with this lubricant. So that wasn't, yeah, it
Yeah.
didn't seem like a perfect
Just
solution.
dimethicone. Coral can't breathe through that.
Right. Yeah. Let's not lubricate all of the oceans. And
Yeah.
yeah. But it is interesting to see that there are people that are um, that are working on those types of solutions, you know.
What would it be like? I was just talking about this with somebody, like there's a job for everybody, right? So what would it be like to be like, I'm developing a toilet lubricant.
I'm lubing up toilet bowls. Yeah.
But they're like for the future, like to save the world. I'm lubricating toilet bowls.
What if that was, that was the position that actually saved the world? Who knows? We'll see. I mean, I think every little bit helps, of course, and like I think that is a cool solution. And if none of it leaches off into the water, then dope. Yeah, let's coat our toilet bowls with something that is not as porous and sticky as ceramic, that it holds bacteria. And so like
that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm also really interested in water catchment systems. That is for like another really good way to help it, as an individual or a small business, is to grow your food or grow your ingredients and use things like a water catchment system where you can catch the water and like you can put it through its own filter, and then it can you can turn it on later and it will go through like a hose and irrigate your crops.
I mean rainwater, like catching rainwater?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Catch your rainwater. Or I actually did this in California with my laundry. I used a like a laundry that I think I was using Dr. Bronner's just as laundry soap. And then I would drain it into a bucket that had a lot of soil I wasn't using, so that the soil would pull out any of the extra soap, and it would drain out a hole in the bottom and water all of my plants that way. So I would wash my clothes and then water my plants with that water.
Nice.
That is something I built that system for super cheap. Super cheap.
None of this stuff is expensive. It just takes a little bit of dedication. Yeah.
Totally. And I actually really, really liked that.
Mm-hmm.
I could like fill my water from my tap. It was a little bit of extra work, but yeah, my laundry machine was a top fill and I had to like fill it.
Mm-hmm.
But
okay.
Just like you can get other ones, but yeah, it drained into my garden.
Nice.
It was awesome. I would totally build another one. Actually, we should talk about building another one of those.
Yeah, that sounds very, very cool. Yeah. I mean, catching rainwater is something that is kind of a contentious topic though, and because it's not legal in all areas, which is crazy.
Why though?
I think it's because like the government kind of thinks that it owns the rights to all water, and it wants to regulate and put it all through the wastewater treatment and then monetize it.
Okay. I also read and this is a conspiracy theory, but I kind of believe it also, that in like, it's usually more common that it's illegal in cities.
Okay.
And that is because they don't want people to collect and test the water because it has a lot of shit in it.
Yeah, particularly. Yeah.
So they make it illegal because actually it's like a safety measure because it's not super safe.
I believe it. Yeah. I mean, that is why they treat water as much as they do, to make it like safe for us to put into our bodies.
But it's not safe because of all the shit we put into the air.
Mm-hmm. And into the soil and into the waterways and into the oceans. And
we fuck shit up.
Yeah. Yes. That is interesting though. Yeah. Well, when those laws started and stuff like that. I don't have that history, but that is interesting. I'd be interested to know that if anybody watching knows that. let
Yeah,
us
you
know.
know anything about water being illegal to
Or
harvest
yeah,
from clouds?
rainwater laws. Yeah.
Water laws,
I, yeah, and it
monetizing
definitely it
clouds.
sounds like something that was just made illegal maybe because people thought that it was unsightly or like totally could make sense that it's like we don't we don't want you to
Please don't
test
drink this
this,
now.
or it could just be like, yeah, it's not safe to drink, so we can't like they want to regulate it so that people aren't getting weird diseases. um I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah, could be a lot of reasons or all of the above. um
Yeah.
but yeah, it just rained here. I live in Southern California, and so that is never, it's never happens. It rained here just yesterday, and I brought like several of my plants. I was like, oh my God, my babies, I'm gonna go take them outside.
On your rain showers.
Yeah, they had never experienced a rain shower before. So
Aw.
yeah, hopefully they liked it. I don't know. It was just yesterday, so they haven't like shown any signs, I suppose, but we'll see.
Yeah, they like it.
I think so. And it was like a warm rain. My goodness, it was
Yeah,
very cool. Yeah.
it's like rain.
Yeah, that does seem like rainwater is something that I do think people should have more control over. That is an interesting thing. But
Like to be able to harvest it, to use
hmm,
it.
yeah, or that, yeah, for that to be, because that was definitely like harvesting rainwater to like use for your plants and stuff was definitely on some of the lists for what you can do to cut down your
Mm-hmm.
own water usage. Um, so that's cool that people are talking about it, but yeah, it's still interesting that like that's problematic in some areas.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's interesting to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think as it as it relates to like what can you individually do, the list is pretty damn sad because it's mostly not us. It's mostly not the individual person that causes the overuse of water.
Mm-hmm.
It's things like yeah, deforestation and also Courtney pulled a like top 3 uh polluters.
Largest corporate water polluters. This was, yeah, based on statistics that were pulled in 2018, but it was really, I was expecting the first one to be like Nestle or something, because we've heard, like, I've heard so much about all the things that Nestle does that like, and they produce
Mhm.
drinks. So I'm like, okay, yeah, they probably make a lot of they deal with a lot of liquids, and like they're also like screwing around with taking river water and stuff like that, which is weird. Um, but I was surprised to see that the number one by a very large margin,
Mhm.
damn near 3 times more water is polluted by this number one than the number two on said large corporation water polluters. The first one is a private defense contractor called Northrup Grumman,
Grumman.
which I had never heard of before, not
No,
surprisingly.
but I am
A
full
lot of
on
research.
stalking their website right now.
Yeah, so they produce like a lot of, yeah, military equipment
Yeah.
and
Aerospace.
yes, jets and stuff like that. So I
Yeah.
was really surprised to see that, but they,
Like, what are they? I think they're just like keeping uranium cold. That's what I told Courtney.
I
Like,
don't
it's
know. Yeah, it's like they do a lot of things with metals, and I know that yeah, you have to use water when cutting metal and things like that, and when cooling metals and stuff. But
I mean, it
I,
makes sense also, right? Because that water, in a lot of cases, also can't really be treated. It definitely can't be treated in a normal treatment facility.
why?
So, this is like one of those. Did you say why?
Yeah.
Because water treatment facilities pull out really specific things from water. Like your Brita doesn't pull out all the minerals that or all the lead.
Mhm.
Water treatment facilities are the same way. They're set up to pull out really specific types of chemicals, which is
Yeah.
one of the big issues that Flint had was they were running it through a water treatment plant, but they were doing it as if it was the same water that they were receiving before. So because their system wasn't set up to have all of the minerals that they got new from the Flint water
Yeah.
supply, it
It,
corroded. It just didn't
yeah.
work.
Their water treatment didn't have the ability to accurately or sufficiently filter out
Exactly.
the actual like toxins and things that were in the water. That yeah. But I
Exactly. So
guess
that's what
yeah, it's
this
like could it be yeah metal? Like what are they putting into the water? What are they doing? I don't know.
I don't know, they're working with like planes, aircrafts, jets, like cybersecurity, which means that they're working on like products that have like like minerals that aren't used in water all the like treatment all the time. Like um I don't know what goes into an electronics chip, for instance, but yeah, those minerals aren't minerals that normal water plants pull out of their system.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, they were by far number one on the list.
Wow.
Um yeah, the way that that um site kind of calculated this was based on like the particulates multiplied by the how toxic it was. So that's
Oh,
how they
damn, they're
kind of like
using toxic shit.
chose this factor. Yeah. So that was
Telling you, man, it's uranium.
and then
Their website literally says that they have sonar that can map the deepest depths of the ocean to anti-submarine systems and advanced electronic warfare. So like
yeah.
they're causing warfare with fossil fuels at the bottom of the ocean. That sounds pretty toxic.
Um I mean yeah, that's I was just really surprised by that. Yeah, that like yeah. And then the number two company was a company called BASF, which is a chemical company, the largest chemical producer in the world.
Okay,
That
also
made sense.
yeah.
That made sense. I was really surprised by the defense contractor, though also not at all because yeah, the um,
Yeah. We
private
put so
military
yeah.
defense contractors are some of the richest people in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We put so much money into private
Oh yes.
defense,
Oh yes. More than anything. Yeah.
literally nothing else. So like these are subsidized companies by through like big deal fossil fuel companies. That's like the number one thing. Oh yeah, we talked about this during our fossil fuel episodes, that fossil fuel companies subsidize these types of companies a lot because they build these innovative warfare things
Hmm.
out of the public eye.
Mm-hmm.
So they
I mean,
fund private military shit.
I'm not surprised that they would be in dealings, but it's something that yeah, federal governments just pay for. That they just pay
Mm-hmm.
for that. Yeah. Um, very, very interesting that yeah, if you guys have any information about Northrop Grumman, that would be interesting to know. Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, give us your conspiracies. Tell us what you know.
I think
Leak
that
it.
they are, yeah, they're one of the largest. It's sort of a conglomerate, like a lot of other defense contractors have sort of been bought up and are now all within that one kind of mega corporation.
That's a really scary.
Yeah, it is. It definitely is. And yeah, just to see that they are polluting as much water as they are. And that's not something that I've seen on any other list of like corporations we should hold accountable or anything like that. And this just seems like such an interesting thing because federal government should be the ones that are kind of concerned and like bringing up these issues of like, you are the organizations that are using so much water. Like who's going to hold them accountable? Absolutely no one in the world can hold
No,
that company accountable.
no. I would like to know how to hold them
And
accountable.
you also can't boycott them. How can you, it's not like Pepsi or
Yeah.
Nestle or something where an individual can have the consumer choice to boycott. You have no choice here. Your tax
No.
dollars are going straight into their pockets.
Right. Which is a bummer fact. Super bummer fact. And it's not a solution for us other than to like know that that's the reality and just sort of know, I guess it's sort of like a calming, like, yeah, if you're having eco anxiety and it's making you make all of these crazy, like, I'm not gonna, I'm gonna take a 5-second shower and like, I feel like that's a reality for some people is
Yeah.
that they feel really afraid and really responsible, but like, you're not responsible for this. There are other people that are responsible for this. And like, what we can do is share this information and just make sure, yeah, you're investing in the right place. You have this knowledge, you have this information, and we can maybe collectively do something about it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it ties into a larger conversation about, yeah, corporate control over political agendas and things like that, which are these topics around sustainability often get to that point.
Like it's like yeah, you scratch the surface of like what can the individual do? Like
Pulls the tape back. It's just corporate bullshit.
yeah,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
it's just like the Nestle guy next to the warmonger guy, like next to the politician, just all being like,
Yeah.
I am Oz.
Yeah. As they're just crafting this wonderful corporate like marketing scheme about how people can help. It's like, nah, homie, like
Yeah.
no.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, we can, but not really.
We can,
And
but they're
it
yeah.
is so intentional. I can't, dang it. I'll remember the name of that podcast and put it in the description of this YouTube. Um, but there is a podcast and it's specific to fossil fuels, but there's a whole episode literally dedicated to, maybe even more than one, dedicated to how these large corporations and these companies like actively market to make us feel responsible so that they don't have to be held accountable for these types of decisions. And
Is it the Drilled podcast?
yes,
Drilled.
please. Drilled is so good and it
Yeah.
is so honest and like wholesome in like a conspiratorial way. It's incredible.
Yeah, you're very right. It is very carefully crafted scheme to make us feel all the pressure when actually, our usage is nothing compared to these massive industries. And
Right.
um yeah, I mean, though, yeah, I think that can kind of give you a little bit of like, okay, I don't have to like, I can still live.
I can take my 15-minute shower when
Yeah.
I need a good shower cry.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, right. Maybe formulate the like arguments in your brain, maybe with the shower off or something instead of on, or like
Sure. Yeah.
yeah,
Be
but
still like we're not saying don't be water wise because you still should be, but
yeah,
we should also on a bigger level be talking about how we can hold other corporations and other like larger
yeah,
entities accountable for them not being water wise. One of
totally.
the and
Yeah.
one of the big things is like those corporations, they had this data and they knew about this starting in the 70s. That's like pre everything. That was when people still used phones that were connected with their neighbors' phones. So, and only had newspapers. And like a countrywide newspaper was a relatively new idea. And so these corporations, they have the best minds and the best spin doctors and like all the money to put into ads, all the money to invest in greenwashing initiatives and always have. So our entire system, our entire way of thinking is built on it being this personal responsibility. And so this is a lot more than just a we need to hold them accountable thing. This is a paradigm shift that we have to step into. And it feels a little scary because this really easily can feel like it's tipping into conspiracy theory. This can feel like it's not real. And then all of a sudden, everybody's fucking lizard people. But like, actually, actually, this type of relationship with media and the larger corporations is problematic and has been for a long time.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, the only solution that I think that gets to the root of like all of this is getting corporate money out of politics.
Yep.
Like, which is
Good.
a big ask, but
It's
like,
so simple though.
but it is kind of the root of almost, yeah, of all of this is if there are people who are in decision making positions who feel beholden to these corporate entities that are lining their pockets, we're not
Mhm.
going to be able to get actual change done at the level where it needs to. Like, yes, I mean, we're all in this together. So, right, of course, your individual usage matters and what you do as an individual matters, but it also really matters to just be talking about it
Yeah.
and to
Find a way to
continue to raise awareness and have these conversations with people and just, yeah,
yeah.
it's the same story, right? Like,
Mhm.
um, yeah, it's the same
Yeah. We
people.
have what do you know? We have the same advice about how to be sustainable. Support local, support small business, support people that like aren't lining their pockets with corporate money and yeah,
Yeah.
grow food if you can, know your neighbors. Cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Be a good person.
Be a
That's
good person and don't exploit every resource that you come in contact with.
yeah. And pay people a living wage.
Yeah, humans are one of those resources in which you
Yeah.
should not exploit. Yes.
That should be our sign off is like and pay people a living wage.
Pay a living wage. Don't forget. Yeah, it is a complicated world out there, but that's the crux of
Yeah,
it.
but nothing. It is complicated. Thanks for doing the best that you can, though. And
Yep.
it's not all on you. You don't have to carry the world, but you know, do your little part, raise some awareness, you know, support the people around you.
Yeah. Yeah. Keep
That's it.
on keeping on. Yeah, man. Yeah. And if you're here, that means that you are someone that that actively cares and is researching this information and is looking and like, yeah, is trying to
So thank
start
you.
conversation. So yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Stay tuned for the next episode of EnvironMental. Likely we are transitioning topics.
Yeah, but maybe it's fashion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's still a little bit up in the air. Yeah, originally we had thought of maybe covering the saltwater because we did just talk about freshwater, but
Yeah, to be honest, the water conversation feels really heavy. And I have a lot more questions about the fashion industry than I have about the oceans. I think that's a pretty clear thing that we just dump shit into the ocean, but I want to know more about the fashion industry and like real stats. Like I know, it's
yeah.
like generally they suck, but
But yeah, totally. No, yeah, diving into an actual industry and production chains and stuff like that, I think is yeah, kind of fits better, right? Like a lot of what we learned about freshwater is super tied to
Mhm.
saltwater as well. And yeah, the biggest issue is that we are polluting the oceans and yeah.
Yeah, we pollute
So
every waterway. Yeah.
that conversation, yeah, it just feels like it'll be more enlightening for us to actually talk about specific industries.
Yeah.
So yeah, and again, like that conversation will likely also lead into what's happening with, with the oceans and pollution because there
Right.
is, yeah, the how textiles are created
It's like
is
spoiler alert. It's all connected.
connected. Um, yeah, so that'll be a really, really interesting one. Yeah, also have a lot of questions and just kind of, it's such a like a secretive industry
I
filled
know.
with just
I'm worried about the bummer
horrendous.
toss of the next topics. I think that's why we've kind of slowed down on environmental a little bit because honestly, like it's a bummer, you know. It's a lot.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's only so much that an individual can do. So, and so much of this is so much larger than any one of us. So it is incredibly important for us to continue having the conversations and to continue learning about it.
Mhm.
Yeah, working on it and at the pace we were previously was it was weighing on us for sure. Yeah. Yeah. Um yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're kind of taking it a little bit more flexible. Um, but we do certainly still hope that you join us for the journey and subscribe to this channel. You'll not only get
Yeah,
these
if you
environmental podcasts.
subscribe,
Yeah.
then you get notifications and then we don't have to worry about showing up at the same time, same place every week. That would awesome.
Yeah, just stay tuned for the next one or follow us at dandelion_branding on Instagram or at Living Brand Directory also on Instagram. Both of those are us. So
Yeah, we're not hard to find.
not at all. Yeah. Cool.
Okay.
Thanks
You.
for watching, everybody.
See you.